4 multipliers of resilience. That's what I described in my book, Better Minds, that was originally published in Dutch as Mentaal Kapitaal. 4 multipliers that I believe are especially important in times of change. And I'm happy to give you some quick insights about how you could improve resilience yourself. The first one has to do with awareness. Being aware of what's going on in our brain. Think about it for yourself. Since this morning when you woke up until now, how much has been going through your brain? Probably a lot you had no clue about. It was in our sub-awareness, but yet having a big impact on how you feel, how you think, how you behave. Does it sometimes happen that you feel stressed in your body, that you have like a stomachache or a headache or a neck pain, or you notice it when someone is asking you something quite politely and you hear yourself shouting? You're saying, what's going on within myself? Often totally no awareness of what's been going on all day long. I like to compare it with this iceberg. There's a lot below the water surface, yet having a big impact on the entire iceberg, and the same holds for your brain. Researchers at Harvard University have shown that when we are awake, in about half of the time, our mind is wandering, it's drifting away, it's everywhere and nowhere. Even when reading my book or watching these series of videos, I bet that often your mind is wandering. And you know, that's okay. Because mind wandering is something useful. During mind wandering, you put things in perspective. You might be translating the insights that I share to your own life. You make it practical for yourself. You might be processing certain emotions. And during mind wandering, creativity is about to happen. Out of the box ideas, because your mind is drifting off and boom, there they are. So mind wandering is really useful. However, even if you're a big optimist, when your mind is wandering, it's a negative mind. It's a mind full with stressful, anxious, hopeless thoughts without you being aware of it. To understand how that's happening, let's take a look at the brain. It should look like this. Now, since primitive times, we have structures in our brain that for the ease, I will call the primitive brain. It's like, should I fight or should I flight? It's always on the lookout for danger. But there's not that much danger in our life. So the primitive person in us is bored. It has not much to do. And it already hugs negativity. Are you familiar with almost a perfect day and one negative thing happens and the primitive person in you is hugging it, finally something to do. Now, luckily, throughout evolution, we've created different brain structures, and especially the orange part that you see here, which is located right here, the prefrontal cortex. Make sure that we're wise, that we are a Homo sapiens. It allows us to do problem solving, reasoning, that we focus, and it makes sure that the primitive person in us is kept at bay. Now, during mind wandering, think about it. It means that the prefrontal cortex is not doing a job well, because otherwise you'd be focused. So without you realizing, the primitive person is taking up a lot of space. It's creating a lot of stress, which research shows is not healthy, nor for our mental or physical well-being. So how much fun would it be if you become aware of that primitive person in you a lot quicker? Now, research has been examining this for decades, all pointing to a very easy solution. So easy that I bet you might think, that cannot be it. But I challenge you. For the next 48 hours, challenge yourself and often ask yourself this question: what was I just thinking? It creates what psychologists call meta-awareness, an awareness about your awareness. Later on in the book, you'll also see I link it to the Great Glass Elevator. So what was I just thinking? Think about it right now. What were you just thinking? It's difficult, right? We don't really have a sense of that because we're not used to that anymore, because we're always busy, lots of digital stimuli coming in. But the good news is you can easily learn it on 2 occasions. The first is when you are bored. For instance, when you're in traffic. Does it sometimes happen that you reach your destination and you think, I'm already here? Did I have a red or a green light at the junction? No clue. Very often in the car, our mind starts wandering. So ask yourself there, what am I thinking? Also, maybe when you're waiting in line in the supermarket, there you are. And your primitive person is having thoughts like, I'm in the slowest line again. How is it possible that my entire life I seem to pick the slowest line? You know how you exit the shop, right? Full with stress, without you being really aware of it. Next time, ask yourself, what am I thinking? What it actually does is getting the attention away from your primitive brain towards your prefrontal cortex, which will conclude wisely, it's statistics, it's based on chance. One time you take the slowest, the other time the fastest line. It's not that you celebrate when you have the fastest line, it's in and out of the supermarket. So check for yourself a moment when you are bored in the car, waiting in line, maybe in the 5th video call that you're having that day. Find out yourself. You'll be shocked about the amount of negative thoughts that the primitive person in you is creating. Now, luckily, your life is not just boredom, right? So ideally, this question towards meta-awareness becomes a habit. And I believe that you can do that if you link it to certain routine actions in your day. Suppose you often drink coffee, tea, water, that you make with yourself the deal. With the first sip, I'm going to ask myself, what was I thinking? Or maybe when brushing your teeth in the morning or taking a shower, what am I thinking? You probably notice that the primitive person is thinking, I already have to do this, You're already stressed before the workday has started. Or when your workday starts. When working from home, you open up your computer, or otherwise, if you go into the office, like the first step that you sit in the office, ask yourself, what am I thinking? If you notice that your primitive person is already having thoughts like, what kind of misery is it going to be today? Then you know you'll be a sponge for negativity. Try to turn it around. For instance, say, I'm going to give 3 people a compliment today and see what happens. It's the same work day, but you decide instead of your primitive brain. See what it might do to you, how you could increase your resilience by becoming more meta-aware.